There was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation.
Charlie Daniels, he's always loved America. He's always defended the Second Amendment.
Let me just read a little thing here from Agenda 21. The American system of justice must be changed to conform to the rest of the world. Individual rights will have to take a back seat to the collective. Well, you know what the next move's going to be, don't you? It's going to be coming after your guns.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, it ain't going to sit well down my way at all. It ain't gonna sit well.
Do you ever wonder what happened to America?
It's time to ride, boys. We need 1,000 Paul Reveres.
When I was a boy, it was okay to be proud of the flag, heritage, mom, and apple pie. And beef was for supper. Revelation, Dawn of Global Government. Theatrical screenings on demand. DVDs now available. Starring Alex Jones, Charlie Daniels, Special Ops General Jerry Boykin. Want to shed some tears over the red, white, and blue? RevelationTheMovie.info. Let's fix it.
Occupying Till He Comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries. This is David Schnitker with today's Southwest Prophecy Ministries program. Thanks for joining us. It has been a real privilege these past 2 weeks to have Chuck and Anita Untersee with us to discuss their film, which has just been released to DVD. It's entitled Revelation, Dawn of Global Government. This DVD is 1 hour and 45 minutes long and took 5 years to produce and about 25,000 miles on their RV. Well, we have been discussing some of the issues in the DVD, and it's been a fascinating discussion with these fine Christian folks from Fredericksburg, Texas. Chuck is the editor of the film, and Anita is the executive producer. It's truly been a labor of love on their part, I can tell. And at the end of the show, I will share with you, listeners, how you can get this amazing film. Well, Chuck and Anita, welcome back to today's program.
Hello, David. Thanks for having us.
Well, it's my pleasure and honor. For those who were not with us last week, Chuck, I'd like you to review the characteristics of a Marxist insurgency as outlined by General Boykin in the film, because I think it's a central part of the message of this film.
Well, General Boykin, of course, was he was a founding member of Delta Force and head of Special Forces, and in that process, they, of course, study in depth Marxism and communism, and essentially learn, the dark side of the enemy. And but one of the basic issues that you see so obviously today in terms of Marxism, which is growing in this country, it's often clouded by the term socialism because that sounds softer and more easy to digest, but it's Marxism which evolves quickly into communism. But the bottom line is a marginalization of the opposition. And of course, how better could you see that in this election window? And the other obvious things are a state religion or control of freedom of religion to the point that it becomes a state religion. And same thing with education, control of education to the point that it becomes government education, which has its opportunity for a controlled agenda, or the central bank issue. That's another point of the Communist Manifesto, central banks controlling the economy, which are not part of the government, and certainly the Federal Reserve is not, and curtailing the freedom of speech and gun control, manipulation of the economy. It seems so obvious. These issues are every day on our lips, but they are really the essence of the Communist Manifesto.
And, as Americans, we tend to, there's a tendency when we see these things or not see these things, like frog in the kettle type of thing, we see these things happen so gradually over time, we tend not to be aware of this progression. But wonderfully, you have interviewed two women in this film who lived through a Marxist and communist or Nazi insurgency. One was a lady from Romania and the other from Germany. Tell us about these women and the warnings that they bring to America.
Anita, you want to describe Elena? She's such a sweet lady. Both of these people were, and Anita and I really got to know Elena a little more because the other lady, Kitty Wortman, is in Montana. So, but we live very near Elena Kita.
Well, Elena Kita and her husband Julian and their young son escaped Romania in the late 50s, and they had a pretty harrowing escape. At the time, there was the wall there between the East and the West, and they wanted to get out of there. Her father was arrested as a, what do you call it, Chuck? Her father was a dissident, basically.
And so arrested for anything at the time under Ceausescu. I mean, major totalitarian environment, and I don't remember what his crime was, but it was nothing in the reality of the real world. But he was in prison for 10 years, came home and his wife was dead, and so Elena wanted to escape that for her own family, and they were in such a horrific state that they lived in the country that local police would come by. You could only have 1 or 2 chickens, and they would come by and count the eggs. And if you had more than was allowed, they would take the eggs. And I mean, it's just a small example, but
it was really a place where you would tell on your neighbors. And as she said, no one smiled, no one sang, no one danced. It was all about just trying to get through each day and try not to get...
Which brings up something that you can see very clearly today, and that's Homeland Security and their campaign, see something, say something. That's just a precursor. In fact, people don't realize that Homeland Security hired 2 KGB generals and the head of the East German Stasi to establish a lot of the things that are unfolding right now in terms of under the headline of state security that are unfolding in this country.
It's interesting. I was in Boston in 2013 when the Boston Marathon false flag bombing took place, which of course was a beta test for mass martial law, in my view. Yeah. And as my wife and I were up there for a few days and just happened to be there when this happened. And when we attempted to come back on the trains, they had, in the few days that we were in Boston, they had rolled out these big posters, if you see something, say something, in just a few days. And they had announcements on the intercom saying the same thing. And they had heavily armed, militarized police on the trains from Boston back to Washington, D.C. So they rolled out martial law based upon these firecracker bombings, which, by the way, didn't kill anybody, so quickly. I am convinced that this was a beta test for martial law across America. But yeah,
that all had to be in place to be able to do that.
Kitty Wortman was an Austrian, and she grew up as a young girl in the 30s under the Nazi regime as once they came into Austria, and even before it was a very nationalistic towards the Third Reich point of view. But she said that Hitler was so mesmerizing. She saw him a number of times, and they would reach out their hands and he would touch them and so on. He was so mesmerizing that it was hypnotic. But the point is, if you look at the history of it from 1933 on, how few years it was before they invaded Poland in 1939, and the whole nation was totally transformed in just a few short years from 33 to 39 into a complete police state. And, of course, what happened after 39 to the end of the war was just a furtherance of that, meaning the camps and so on and so forth. But both she and Elena, having experienced full totalitarianism in its worst, at its worst, then came here for what everyone in the world up until recently thought of as being the nation to come to for freedom and liberty and the opportunity to better yourself and so on and so on, all the things we grew up on. Basically, both of these women have a perspective that your average American doesn't, because in reality, we tend to have a sense of we just have been so used to the good life for so long that we find it hard to believe it could ever change. And we have a sense of entitlement, whereas these people came from a point of view of horror, and they see how quick it can change and how horrific it actually is. And when they come here and say they cannot believe what they're seeing and they see it unfolding again, people should listen.
Oh, absolutely.
They're firsthand witnesses to what can take place.
Yeah, they are definitely prophets to America, and they speak with such passion. And you can tell that these are women who have gone through much in the way of suffering. Their families have been killed. They've had to leave their homeland because of tyranny that absolutely tore their country apart. So I think the inclusion of these women in the film is just so spot on. Well, our next question is, a film like this could tend to be depressing as we talk about different issues related to tyranny, Federal Reserve, Common Core, NSA, etc. What solutions does this film present? Either one of you can jump in.
Anita, why don't you address that?
Just a couple of the main solutions are things that we spoke about earlier, which one of them was repentance and turning back. Same word really, but returning to God and returning to our spiritual heritage and values. Praying, prayer is so powerful, especially against these spiritual forces of darkness that we talked about. So I would say prayer is the number one thing. I hear a lot of people say, and I've said it myself, well, all we can do now is pray about it.
Has it come to
why
that?
Why don't we start with that and then
yes.
go from there?
Yes, that's a good place to start.
And secondly, taking action where each of us can find an area. You don't have to tackle every one of these problems. Find an area you're interested in. Like my daughter is interested in homeschooling. She's struggling to homeschool her children. Well, really, the only struggle is against everybody around her. So raising a good family. There's lots of different areas you could get involved in as a citizen. It's up to us as citizens we are the government. We have to keep our government in check, and we have to participate. And some other ways are, as far as on a larger scale, is the states have the rights to states have their own constitutions, and really those are the constitutions we need to be most concerned with. So we've got our states' rights, and another one that a lot of people don't know about is that the sheriff is the highest elected official in every county. The sheriff has power over the federal government, and the states also have power over the federal government if they would exercise that right. So those are some of the solutions that we put forth in the movie.
Well,
I think you could sum it up as three concepts. One is God, one is education, and one is founding principles. If we put all those in the hopper and made them effective, we would be whole again. And we are definitely moving very rapidly away from all three.
Absolutely. It is.
It can feel overwhelming when you look at all these issues, and I've gone back and forth on it because as we got more and more involved in the film, we discovered more terrible things that we didn't know about. But really, when you look at it on the eternal perspective, it makes it a lot easier to handle because this is really an age-old battle. But we have had the blessing of the freest country, I guess, ever in the world history, and we can't let it slip through our fingers. We have to, each one of us, do what we can and to try to maintain that freedom, since it was handed to us to protect it. And so that's what we're trying to do with abilities that we had the skills. We've spent our careers in film production, and when we became aware of what was going on, it had been happening way before we ever figured anything out. But once we did, Chuck thought, well, what should I do about it? He was trying to tell people one-on-one, and when it came to him that, hey, I should use my abilities as a director to put this all together and put it in a format that can be seen on a wide scale. So now we've made this tool, and people out there that see it and think it's worthy can show it to their friends and family. You can, of course, buy the DVD and check it out. And if you want to show it to a larger group, which we've had a lot of that kind of response, because even for people that know all these issues, it's a way it explains it all, and you don't have to explain it yourself. It's all there for you. But there's a way to show it in the theater if you're interested.
At our premiere in Houston, we had an uninvited attendance of 300 people, including Ron Paul and, of course, General Boykin and our George Washington, who's in the film and a Baptist pastor. But the issue is, with 8 screenings we've had in theaters, we've had little old ladies who were the greatest generation to young couples with a baby to all kinds of people come and just be stunned that they had no idea these issues were really going on. And so it really can, and what can they do is they're always their response, and they really, this is the magic of it, that people can make a difference. And I'm telling you, on a big screen, it's a very different experience in the theater than it is on DVD, on TV. So it can give people out there in small town America the feeling they've got a tool that they can do something with and show people in a theater. And all they have to do is go to our site and go through the process, and it can be scheduled for private theaters, privately owned theaters, or the major chains in any town in America. And
it doesn't cost you anything as a promoter to show it. In fact, you're even given 5% of ticket sales just for the time and effort it takes to invite people to come.
And let me say this, just so that it doesn't go unsaid, this film is theatrical quality. When you see it in DVD form, it's amazing. Obviously, on the big screen, it's even more amazing. So this is a theatrical quality film. I'm sure it's filmed in high def, the latest, the best equipment. So whether you just view it in the privacy of your home as a DVD or take this on as a project, a Liberty project, to host a screening in a local theater, you will not be disappointed with the quality from the production perspective, production quality of this film. Chuck, we're about out of time. Give us the name of your website again so folks can follow up with the aspect of showing this in a local theater.
Our website is revelationthemovie.info, and on that site you can, under the tickets, which is the major icon you see first at the bottom, you can go through the whole process of the theatrical release, and the next icon is DVDs, which is where you can buy the DVDs if you'd rather do that. Great.
Well, these have been amazing interviews the last 3 weeks. This is the third interview regarding your film. And friends, I'm sure you will want to obtain a copy of this DVD just released this past week. It's entitled Revelation, Dawn of Global Government. And in this amazing film, you will learn about the issues and solutions concerning the problem of globalism that is afflicting our country. Some of the leading patriots in the country are involved in this. We've mentioned just a few. Now, you may obtain a copy of this DVD, which is nearly 2 hours in length, for a gift of $19.95 plus $5 shipping and handling. You may obtain this film in 2 ways. You may order it on our website. That's www.swpm.us. That's www.swpm.us. Or you may order it the old-fashioned way, through the mail, at Southwest Prophecy Ministries, P.O. Box 58043, Oklahoma City 73157. That address again is P.O. Box 58043, Oklahoma City 73157. Now please join us next week as we have a very special guest that appeared in this film. Until then, this is David Schnitker. Thanks for listening.